Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. This is Dario Moya from Mount Zion Apostolic Church's Bible Quizzing Program. Today we're going to be going over BQLearn 2019 for the United Pentecostal Church's Bible Quizzing program season that is on Bible doctrine. And so this is when you open up your app, this is what it's going to look like. On the top, it's going to say BQLearn. On the side, you have, on the upper right hand side, you have your information icon and your settings icon. And so as you go into it, you can take a nice good look. So we'll open up the information icon real quick. And as you see, there's a lot of information that is given in here, and it goes over each of the icons that you're going to see in your studying. Your very first one is that that curve back arrow that goes back to a previous verse of study that you're studying. The step backward arrow is an icon that we'll be exploring when we get into it. It adds back the few removed letters that as you're learning your scripture. You have your triple line, which is your triple line icon, which is a toggle that goes between the full verse and the verse with the missing letters. And so we'll be again exploring what this does. And you have your step forward icon, and then you have your double forward arrow, which goes to your next verse of study. Now the next icons that you will see is your verse beginning icon, which is VB. Your verse ending icon, which shows the verse ending. And then you have, for your charting purposes, you have your one-time words, your two-time words, and your three-time words icon. Now, if you're a beginner quizzer, you will not have to worry about two times or three-time words, as in the beginner division, you will not be going over that. And so we're just going to head back up real quick, and we're going to go into the settings icon. And it's your set colors preferences and your set timer preferences. And so the default is going to be on verse beginning and ending. It's going to be green, and your one-time, two-time, and three-time words typically will be in red. Now I changed the preferences just because I kind of like having different preferences. So we're going to change this coloring for the verse beginning, and so we can go give it like a nice. We can go give it a nice purple. Why not? And then your timer, it's always best to set it to 30 seconds, as that is the average time that each quizzer is given to answer a question during a Bible quiz. So this gives a really good a quizzer a good place of a good reference point on the amount of time that they need to take to answer a question. So let's head back. We're going back to the front icon on the front page. And you have your four divisions: your beginner, junior, intermediate, and experienced. For the purpose of this video, we're going to go into beginner division. And so we're going to click on beginner division, and you have these different tabs that you can go into. Your first one is learn a new verse. Second tab, practice your referencing. Your third tab is practice your verse beginnings. Fourth tab is your verse endings. Your fifth tab is practice unique words. Your sixth tab is practice your missed verse beginnings from BQ quote. At this time, we're not going to really explore this one because I do not have BQ quote at this time. And then you have a list of all your verses at the final final tab. And so right now we're going to go into learn a new verse, which is your first tab. And so each scripture in each of these tabs are in 15 scripture intervals. That's just how they have it planned. And so we're going to go into the very beginning, because we're going to go over the very first verse for this program, which is Exodus chapter 24:12. And so the scripture is, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Come up to me into the mount, and be there. And I will give thee tables of stone, and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them." Now, if you see, just take a nice good look around the page. You have on your right hand, in your top right hand is, again, you have your home page, your home icon, your settings icon. In the middle, you have the verse reference, and on the top left, you have your font icons, which is the bigger A is you tap on that and you'll see what happens. It increases the font. You hit the smaller A and it decreases font. And again, make that to your own preference on how you want to do. For the intent of this video, we're going to keep the font to its default size. Now, and so the main body of this on this page, you're going to see the scripture. And so you have the reference and your scripture, and then below that you have these stars, and then below the stars you have this little microphone icon, along with these other with the revert, with the rewind, and the pause button. Now let's go into the stars first. So as you're quoting the scripture, and it's not just, you're not just saying it over and over, but it kind of, this app gives this really fun way of learning where when you tap each star, it removes some of the letters. And there's multiple ways of removing and adding stars. One way is just tapping on the star itself, so you can tap on the first one, second one, third one. Or when you go, you can go down to the bottom icons, and so your first icon is the backward icon, which goes to the previous verse of study. Now, obviously, this is the very first scripture, so if you hit it on verse 1, you can get the alert. There's no previous verse in this material. But if you hit the next one, which is the backward icon, it will remove a star and will return the missing letters that you have on it. And then you have your toggle. Again, the toggle, what the toggle does is that, as you see, there are letters that are removed, but when you hit the toggle, it returns all the letters back. This is a good way to see on how you're learning and how you're progressing along as you're quoting. And so we're going to hit the toggle again, and then you have your forward button, which adds stars. So I'm not adding stars by hitting the star icon, but I'm hitting the forward icon. And then you have your next double forward icon, which goes to your next scripture. Then you have your next icons, which is verse beginning icon. So if you tap it, it will show your verse beginnings. You tap it again, it removes it. You have your verse ending icon. You hit it, and it shows you your verse ending. Then lastly, for beginners, you have your one-time word icon, which will again return all the missing letters and words, and will show you what are your one-time words. And so as you continue to learn, you go all the way, and so we're going to finish off all the stars, and we're going to show you what it looks like. So that is what the scripture looks like when you've hit all the stars. The scripture is missing. The only thing that you have is the reference. And this is a good way to see on how you're learning. And so you can quote the scripture, and then to double check to make sure that you are quoting it correctly, you hit the toggle, and you can go back and say, okay, I did really well in this scripture. And so let's go home. So I'm going to return all the stars back to the rightful spot, and we're going to go home. And so now you have your four different types of referencing in your beginner division. Your basic referencing. So we're just going to do that real quick. And so I'm going to do verse. I'm going to just do the one verse. And so this is what it looks like. You're given a time of 30 seconds. Again, in the time preference, that's how much time you get. You have your reference, and then you have the amount of scriptures that you will be working on. So you get 30 seconds to quote, and when you after you quote, hit the show button. See how you did. See if you said it correctly. If you hit it correctly, you hit the got it button. If you did not, you hit the missed it button. So let's just say we got it. And now, again, it gives you something different, which is the verse beginning. And the Lord said unto Moses, come up. Well, come. And so you start right there, and then you begin to quote. After you quote, you hit show. You get to see whether you are right or wrong, if you're correct or incorrect, and then you either hit I got it or missed it. And so for the sake of moving this along, we're going to say we got it. And then afterwards, it gives you, kind of shows you on how much time it took for you to quote each time it was shown to you. Either it was shown you to by the verse beginning or by just the verse reference. So we're going to head on back home to the next referencing, which the verse ending and verse beginnings are almost the same. And so we'll just kind of show you what it looks like. And you do the very same thing on it. And the difference is that you get to choose to whether if you want to reference in order or in random. For the sake of time, we're just going to do in order. And if you notice on the very top, you have 15 times to be going over this verse beginning. Now, what we're going to show right now is what it looks like when you run out of time. Now, when you run out of time, it does not give you the option to say that you got it, because if it takes you more than 30 seconds to even make an attempt to quote it, you do not have the scripture at this time. You need to go back and you need to study it up. Sorry, the coach and me starting to speak. So here's what it looks like if you do not answer it in the 30 seconds you are given. And it only gives you the option to say that you missed it. And now it gives you the scripture again, and then you have another opportunity to quote the scripture and get it correctly. And so this is what it looks like, and then you continue from there. You can hit I got it, and then you go to the next ones. And then after you hit show, if you notice on the very top left, on the on the top right, that you have this matrix icon, and it kind of gives you your stats on how you're doing at the moment. And so you keep on going, and again you just keep on quoting it until you're confident in your quoting ability. So we're going to go back home, and the verse endings again is going to be very similar to the verse beginnings, but let's take a look at the unique words. This is really great, especially for charting purposes. So we're going to do Exodus 24:12. If you notice, it does not give a reference, it does not give you a verse beginning and verse ending, but the one-time word that shows up, which is stone. And so because there are 3 unique words in verse 1 of not verse 1, but in the first verse that we're studying, you get 3 chances to work on these. So you show it. If you notice, tables of stone. And then going back to tables is a one-time word in your scripture, and then lastly, mount is a one-time word. And so you get to see what that is and how fast that you continue to work on this and to get your one-time words, especially for the beginners. And it shows you how fast you do, your average time for doing each scripture. And so it's a really great tool to use for your quoting. Now, again, you missed your verse beginnings from BQ Quote. We're not going to go over that because I do not have BQ Quote today. But again, we'll revisit, and we'll make a really good effort to explore BQ Quote as well as the games that are offered by Ruth Wilson, that is making all these great apps for us to learn. Anyway, so that is all. We're going to stop here for now. It is getting a little bit we're right past the 10-minute mark, and so I don't want to go too long on each of these videos. And so this is the beginner division. Next time we're going to work on the junior division and see what we can do from there and show on how to quote. And the junior division video will probably be a lot shorter because a lot of the stuff is the very same thing, but the only difference is that there's a little bit more on the referencing side. And so we'll explore that next time. And so this is BQLearn, and we'll be going over this piece by piece and getting a good understanding. So this is Dario Moya from Mount Zion Apostolic Church's Bible Quizzing Program. We'll go again at this next time.